Welcome back, Mine EX-Plorers 20, episode 20.
It's episode 20, big episode 20. We made it 20 weeks into shooting.
20 weeks, yeah. We've had
Just half the year.
Yeah, a couple of hiccups along the way, but for the most part, we've actually stayed on track, which is awesome.
Pretty well, yeah.
Yeah.
And we've always, every Tuesday, we've had an episode ready, and some of them we haven't been able to post on time, but we've had them.
Yep. Today is Take Your Cat to Work Day, so we're celebrating that. So taking Blue to work. He had to work remotely at Burgess today, just due to personal reasons, but he was there judging everybody and assessing their keyboard abilities. So he was still doing his part.
And Skaboosh is still napping, so I didn't bring him with me to work today.
He was taking a personal day.
Taking a personal day. But when I see him later, I will make sure he puts some work in.
Yes. Yes. Well, today I want to talk about a conference that I attended recently. I always get the acronyms are hard sometimes. The American Exploration Mining Association, AEMA.
American Exploration and Mining Association.
Oh my hell, yes. American Exploration Mining Association.
American Exploration and Mining Association.
Yeah. Anyway, AEMA.
Okay.
They're a great organization. We've been members of them for years now. They are always representing mining and exploration in a good light. They do a lot of activity in Washington to share their expertise for, the lawmakers and policymakers, so mining can always have a place in the U.S. So it's always great to support industries that support our industry, right? So,
and they're really responsive. So if something pops up,
very responsive.
You can ask them. They'll give you an opinion on it. If we need help with something, they're there to help.
It's amazing. And
they really stand out for that.
Great group of people. So I had a lot of fun and I learned a lot of stuff attending that conference in Spokane. What I think one of my main takeaways is just how the mining industry talks to people, talks to the general public, we'll say.
Or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof, yes, it's also a thing. We, as service providers, we do our part to showcase what we do, but oftentimes we run into, as we found out last week, we can't share what our clients are doing because of client information and sensitive projects and all of that. So it's just trying to walk that line of like, hey, we're doing really neat things, but we can't really say what we're doing and who we're doing it for, but
even though it's all really public information.
Even though technically it's public information, but yes.
Yeah, we do what we can, but yeah, oftentimes there's so many cool things we'd love to talk about and can't.
Yep. But it's interesting because I learned that mining companies who are actively mining also have that same issue of their public relations people, their marketing people. They want to showcase, people working in the mines or whatever looks interesting, but they have to run it through the lawyers and the board, and oftentimes it gets just so far diluted by the end of it. What they actually post is completely different from what they started with.
Right, and it's stupid.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just boring.
Right,
it's boring.
Right, you've taken all the fun out of it.
You've taken all the fun out. You've taken the personality. You've taken the humanity out of it. And it's something that we are all acknowledging on a very, individual level, but it's those big companies. It's like, okay, we need to be a little bit more real. I was even talking to a gal who is over down in Tucson at the university down there. And she was saying she runs into the same problem. Like they want to just have their marketing be like these beautiful, pristine things that only showcase the great things about mining. But when reality is like mining has a dirty past, we need to talk about it and acknowledge it of like, hey, we messed up over here, but look, we're doing really good now. We've learned from our mistakes.
Right.
And it's good to, I think it's important. Like people want to hear that, right? Like you want to hear the good and the bad.
Well, everybody knows when they're just being fed corporate BS.
Oh my gosh.
And they know when they're seeing something real.
Yeah, so finding that authenticity.
You overdo it, you're like, okay, anybody can do Coke style advertising where you're like, Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
This is actually poison, but you're going to love it and have the best life ever if you drink it.
Right.
And then they just never variate from that.
Yeah.
So all they do is brand awareness. There's no actually like sales or marketing. It's just brand awareness constantly. And
Right.
it doesn't work that way for mining.
It does not work that way.
We can't just say, this is Freeport McMoran copper. It's better than everyone else's copper and you need it for your car.
Nobody wants to hear that.
Right.
Nobody.
But when it comes time to protest a new permit or something, like
They'll dig up
those
anything.
guys will just fabricate whatever to get you to come out and sign a petition or write a letter, and they'll do it all for you. And in some cases, they'll pay you to do it.
Yep.
And then on the other side, the mining companies are like, we're not even going to talk about what's going on here. We're just going to pretend like nobody can see us.
It's crazy.
But it's like counter this stuff. Like I keep seeing in resolution, like I read a thing today that in this, like the article in a major publication said land swap for giant copper pit approved. And it's like, that's an underground mine.
Right.
There's going to be no copper pit. And like, nobody proofread the title, but it's like they don't care.
They don't care.
The more inflated and scary it sounds, the better.
It's just a lot of
and like an underground
fear-mongering.
mine, or like there's all this stuff about Oak Flat, and it's like they're not going to mine there. They're mining under it,
Right.
thousands of feet under it.
Right.
There's not going to be a big open pit in the middle of this area that they're interested in. Like they're not going to touch it, but they need to have it to mine what's under it.
Right, because you just can't have random people walking on top of the mine.
Well, you can. It's just the mineral rights.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's frustrating. I get very frustrated with the mining industry and how it's handled its PR
Yeah.
for the last 3-4 decades, and it just they're catching up and they're going to figure it out. And there's an effort made now.
There is an effort. We're talking about it now.
Still, it's taken a long time to get to the point where it's like, okay, we can't hide under a rock. I mean, we're doing all these things. Like I went to Kennecott today. I did the mine tour at Kennecott, and they have a video that they play that talks all about the history of the mine, the copper, how they process it, some really crazy statistics about how much copper they produce and gold and silver and all that. And then they spend the last bit talking about all the stuff that they're doing in the community.
Yeah.
And like building these giant reverse osmosis water filtration plants that'll feed the community that the community didn't have to build because they're building. All of the trees they're planting and the habitat restoration, all the historical mining sites that they're cleaning up that had nothing to do with Kennecott.
I mean, they turned their tailings into a whole community that has excellent groundwater now.
Yeah, and they're doing all sorts of things like that, but it's like you never hear about it because they're not.
It's just too
They
quiet.
don't have a campaign to like, okay, if you're spending $100 million on this facility, spend $500,000 on PR
Yeah.
to make sure everyone knows about
So
it.
the community knows what you're doing.
Right.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, I've even heard people say like, oh, Rio Tinto, that's the soccer stadium in Sandy, right? And it's
Right.
like, holy cow, no.
Well, and that's their idea of publicity and community outreach, and it helps.
It
It's
helps.
a part of it.
I mean, every company does that, right? They sponsor everything.
Right.
You know?
But getting the name out, actually recognizing the efforts that they're doing. And look, like if you're doing community service, you should do it for the sake of community service, not PR.
Yes.
But in the case of mining, they have so much PR to make up for that you just got to do the PR.
Yeah, there's a balance there. I mean, speaking of PR and community service, so if you can see, I know the cat's in the way, but I am wearing a Burgess Miners hockey jersey. This is a little bit that Burgess does for the local community. I branded a hockey team over the last couple of years. And so it's, they play at the Oval. They call it Beer League.
Are they any good?
No. No, they're terrible.
Well, hopefully none of them are watching right now. But so do better.
They know how I feel about it. They do their best. They're out there having fun. They're getting
It's
exercise.
about having fun, right?
I mean, and to be fair, their team, so because there's not enough people in Salt Lake who play hockey, they do it by skill level per se. So you get a range of like 18-year-olds. So like I think we have people in their 60s on our team. And so when those older gentlemen play against the young kids, it's just not quite apples to apples, if you know what I mean.
Right.
You know, they were good like 20 years ago, but now they're feeling a little out of their league.
Hockey's a pretty physical sport.
But you know what? It's awesome. They get out there, they play it, and it's fun to see my name out there too. So,
yeah, that's cool.
yeah, I mean, and that's something that Burgess and I personally feel very strongly about, is just donating as often and as much as we can to the local community.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and unlike the mining companies who have to get up and actually like have people show up at hearings and support them when it's time for public comment periods and stuff, like we can actually do our community giving back quietly.
Yeah, and that's how I prefer to do it.
But our name's not on stuff that the public needs to show up and support, so
right.
it's a different thing.
It is we play a little bit of a different game, yes.
But for a lot of our clients that fly under the radar and they demand to stay that way, in spite of eventually they're going to need public support, and then they're going to pop out of nowhere and go, hey, we're going to have one meeting and you can show up and we'll tell you about our project and then please support us.
Right.
And it's like, if there's no awareness and no
I know, and I mean, like, but what can we do, right? Like, it would sometimes, like, it'd be awesome if we could just get. So mining's in the news now, right? We're getting into the conversation.
Oh, all the time.
We're getting into the mainstream media now, which is great. Sometimes it usually comes with a lot of backlash and a lot of people with, you know, like, oh, they're going to ruin this, they're going to ruin that. And sometimes the articles are a little bit less pleasing or less supportive of the mining. But we're in there, so that's good.
They used to be 90% negative.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing like 60-40.
Yeah, so it's changing.
Depending. I mean, there's certain publications, if I get a digest of all the mining articles every day.
Yeah.
And there's certain publications I just automatically ignore.
Yes.
Because I know they don't do any effort to fact find.
Oh, no.
Or paint anything.
Right. And it's always like,
And
if
then,
there's a new mine site, it's just going to be terrible.
Yeah.
Right?
But then there's a lot like that actually have more balanced reporting. And I notice like it's more like 60-40 negative to positive versus
well, that's
90-10.
I mean, we're making changes. It's just not as fast as we would like. But
right.
We're also in a very much of a slow moving industry at times. I mean, the permitting process takes 20 years.
Well, and we've got a big issue in the education system.
Yeah.
Kids aren't actually learning where things come from anymore.
Right. And that was something we also talked about at the Summer Summit from AEMA, is there's that younger generation that doesn't know anything about mining. I mean, some lady did a presentation, she also is from the university in Tucson, of teenagers, I think that it was like 18 to 20, I think was the range, I could be wrong, said, like, when you think of mining, what do you think what it is? And 90% is like, it's Minecraft.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. Well, we have a lot. Okay, so they have an idea, but that's not right.
Yeah, they think Minecraft's cool though. It's a start.
It's a start. It's a start.
It's a start.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think kids now, teenagers, what do you think about mining? They think about Minecraft. Mm-hmm. When we went to high school, what do you think about mining? People say West Virginia, coal mining, child labor.
I think if somebody asked me when I was in high school what I thought about mining, it probably would have been like maybe gold mining. That's like the only mining I ever thought of.
Well, you were in Alaska.
Right.
I mean, that's what they do.
Right. It's like mining, and then maybe, I don't even know if I would consider like gravel pit a mine. Right. And we have those left and right up there too.
Right.
So it's, I mean, we're lacking education. We're lacking just, basic stuff.
So what were your key takeaways from this AEMA meeting?
Well, we had a whole conversation on marketing, which is always like, my passion. I love marketing. I think it's really interesting. We were talking about like the different parts of the brain responds to information differently. So you kind of have to think about that when you make your social media posts, so you don't come across in a way that people will understand or even want to listen. Which is something that we've also in the industry, now that we had that, now that I learned that from the conference, I see it everywhere of when we talk to like the general public about mining, 90% of what we're saying is like, you need mining and it's important and it is going to save you from everything. And we are the most important thing out here because it all starts with mining. And that is just falling on deaf ears, as we've seen, right? Like the only people who really like those kinds of posts are the people in the industry. So we're only talking to ourselves.
It's a defensive response.
Absolutely defensive.
Because everybody in the industry has been yelled at, like, you're terrible, you're destroying everything. And we respond, we're necessary.
Yeah.
Instead of maybe like, no, actually, we're not destroying things. No, actually, resolution isn't going to be a giant pit.
Right.
It's going to happen 8,000 feet underground with an extremely skilled workforce.
Yeah, so it's just taking that same type of messaging and just turning it into something that people can hear of, like, oh, I understand your concerns. Like, right, I live in this community too. I also care about the water. I also care about the air. I also care about the noise and the dust. Those are very valid concerns. This is how we're mitigating it. And so it's just talking to people, right? Like, people want to be seen. They want to be heard.
It takes a lot more time to do it that way, though.
For sure does.
But it's the right way. So I have an experience with that. We were helping a sand mining company get started. And they were in the permitting phase, and there was a lady who reached out from the local community who somehow found my name attached to the project somewhere along the line. It was like on claim paperwork, or it was on something, and the local environmental group like just published everything, all the documents, like everything there was, to try to put a negative spin on it. There wasn't really much to do, so they just made a bunch of stuff up. This lady reached out and she's like, hey, I read about how this project's gonna destroy this, it's gonna destroy this, it's gonna destroy this, it's gonna destroy this. And I decided to, instead of just referring her to the company's PR people, I decided to actually type out a thoughtful response. Her inquiry to me was not out of anger, it was more of curiosity. Like, I have genuine concerns about this. Mm-hmm. Your name was mentioned. What do you have to say about it? And I addressed the concerns, but I set expectations really early too. And I said, this is exploration permitting. I gave her the odds of it even becoming a mine. So like, first off, this is exploration permitting. So there's an 80% chance. It's a sand mine, so it's a lot higher.
And what is exploration permit, for those who don't know?
But it's industrial sand, so it's not, the market's not as easy to flush out.
Right.
Exploration permitting is just permitting to do drilling, trenching, just bring in some equipment, do some testing to see if the geology makes sense. And with any exploration permitting, you put up a bond, a cash bond up front, to make sure that any damage done is going to be reclaimed, it's going to be taken care of. There's like almost no risk to anything with exploration.
Right, because you can there's a certain amount of disturbance you can do. It's 5 acres per permit. And like you said, you have to put up the money up front before it's even approved.
Yep.
So like, it's a guarantee the land will be restored.
Yep, guaranteed.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't just go dig up wherever and drill wherever and just leave it.
No.
There's a guarantee it's restored. And it's been that way for decades now, and it works great. Yeah. So really low risk. But anyway, I walked her through. So first off, the odds of this actually becoming a mine are really low. So there's that. Don't get too worked up about it. And you can tell your neighbors, like, it's exploration. Here's what that means. Then I went on to say, if the mine goes into production, here's what the plan looks like. Here's what the plant will look like. Here's the volumes. Here's different things. And it's all stuff that was public on the website of the mining company that the people publishing the negative articles didn't even bother to look at.
Oh, complete disregard.
They just made up all their own stuff. It was super inflammatory, super, like, this project was 20 miles from a national park as a crow flies. And there's another national park on the other side of the project, like 120 miles as a crow flies. And the media spin on this project was that they were virtually mining inside of both national parks and going to destroy them.
Right.
And I'm talking as a crow flies. By truck, it was like 60 miles and like 150 miles.
I know.
So nowhere near anything sensitive. But I took the approach of actually walking through. And it was like 4 or 5 emails back and forth. And then finally she's like, thanks, I think I really understand. Thanks for all the information. And then the project got dropped like a year later, and she emailed and she's like, oh, you were right. Like, totally, thanks. I'm glad I had that information because I didn't worry about it. But it took a lot of time and patience.
For sure.
And I think that's difficult for people in the industry because we've been bullied for so long that like people just yell at us that we're terrible for being in the industry. So like being like, let me be empathetic and explain to you really carefully what we actually do. It's counterintuitive.
Right, it is.
Because a lot of the time, like I read these articles, I fall into the trap and I read an article about a mine, like Thacker Pass, right? It's a lithium mine for green technology.
But
it's also a mine. And so there's all this terrible stuff about it.
The buckwheat flour is out there.
And I want to be mad and just be like, you know what? I wish I had a coalition of just all the mines in the world and just say, hey, let's take 2 months off and just shut down.
Yeah, no, that's not going to work.
Right. But I mean,
it would be, on that same vein, we actually talked about this briefly at my table. It would be awesome to have a coalition of all the mines in the world that just got their PR together and we just like had one collective voice. That would be amazing. And we actually did like campaigns and we made a movie and, we did all this shit that all the environmentalists are doing, except like in a nice way, in a way that's more like, hey guys, like we see your concerns, whatever, but this is what we do. This is how we do it. This is how a mine actually works. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. But it's going to take the mining industry to do that, right? We can't rely on other people.
Yeah, well, and as we've found, even just having a local coalition, and we're part of a local coalition, a local group of operators, and then there's one large outside operator who just monkey wrenches everything. So you think about that happening on a global scale, and you're like, forget about it.
It's an idea, right?
It's good to dream, though. You guys got together and
we
you dream.
have to dream. It's
you
important.
push in the right direction. You make small changes.
I mean,
important.
It starts in the mind, right? If we all have a shitty mindset about how the mining industry is represented, it will always be represented poorly. And it's up to us as companies, as individuals, to share our story. I mean, that's why AEMA is doing the I Am Mining campaign, right? It's a whole campaign that just talks with one person or a company and says, hey, this is what I do. This is what I do in mining. This is how mining affects my life. This is how I support it. This is how, this is my career. This is how I feed my kids. It's awesome.
Right.
And it's so fun to see those stories, right? Because like they're just people. At the end of the day, they're just people. They're doing their best. They're, sharing the education that they've learned over the years with the public, and it's a wonderful thing.
It's a really good campaign.
It is. Yeah, we'll participate, absolutely.
Yeah. No, it's a good campaign because it is. It's people, and it's the people who really change it. So a lot of the time when I'm talking to people who aren't in the industry, and I expect some sort of negative backlash.
Sure.
When I don't get it, it's usually because it's somebody who knows somebody in mining. They go, oh yeah, my uncle worked at the pit, up at Rio Tinto.
Oh, in Utah, it's like you're one or two people away from somebody who works there.
But if you get somewhere like my gravel had an uncle pit. My uncle had a gravel pit. My brother is an electrician and he works at mines. That sort of stuff is really helpful.
Yeah, it makes it more relatable. You're like, oh, that's not an industry that's so far away. That's an industry that's here. I can see it.
Right.
But
that is difficult because there's it's a very small industry in terms of people.
Sure.
Like there's more people who work for the U.S. Postal Service than there are who work in all of the mining in the United States that isn't sand and gravel and construction aggregates.
Right. But I mean, you think of like downstream services too. That's more people.
Yeah.
More people. It affects all of us. I don't know, it's fun to talk about. And I think, us doing this podcast and sharing our stories in the industry and, how it affects us on a day-to-day is I think it's fun. I mean, we'll see what the viewers say at the end of the day. But
hopefully they say something. Please leave comments. Nobody says anything, so we don't know if we're on the right track.
Somebody said they didn't like me wearing hats inside, but that's whatever. Yeah. Who cares?
No, we get some good feedback on our AI content and stuff as well, because we keep up to date on that. And talk about how that's going to affect jobs and all the other stuff, which I was planning on talking about in this episode, but I think we'll talk about it in the next one.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about AI in every single thing. Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's important that just individuals in the industry share what they're doing.
Right.
You can hide the client information, you can hide all the proprietary information, all that good stuff that you can't say. But I love it when I talk to people and just ask them like, hey, how did you get into mining? It's so fun to learn because it's never a linear thing. Like,
oh no.
They asked the question at AEMA of like, how many of you went to school for mining? And like 3 people raised their hand out of like almost 200 people, right? And I certainly wasn't one of them, and none of us, the majority of us did not get into mining through thinking about it. Like if they did, it's usually like they had a relative who was working in the industry.
It's almost always a roundabout path. Yep, you're right. It's almost always like we had Chris Gunther on, and he's like, I was in finance and I had a client who was really interested in gold and silver stocks, so I started studying that, and then eventually that led him to being involved in mining. And
I remember when we were working with him before he was an employee, because he was working with
well, he was just doing a freelance accounting
the freelance accounting work, and it was always so fun because like he would talk to us about our finances, and then like always at the bottom of the email would be like a side tangent about mining.
Right.
Usually like gold and silver, like, do you guys see what this is going on?
I still get this.
Yeah, which is great.
He'll send a message about something and then like another big message about like,
dude, I love
what's
it.
going on in the
I love
industry.
it. I mean, we had him give a little presentation during the last team meeting about his personal like finance insights on the industry.
The research he came up with, I think, would actually be really interesting to share again. So I'd like to have him on in a couple more weeks.
He's game.
To do that, and then kind of go back through some of our old guests, and then if anybody has any guest ideas that you think would be good on the show, drop a comment, send us an email. We're easy to get a hold of. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. I mean, we're talking about it, we're doing things, we're supporting the community as we go as a small business, we're supporting our team members, helping them grow in their career. It's awesome. It's awesome. We're just one little cog in the big wheel of mining.
It is awesome. I get really frustrated with just how long everything takes.
Yeah, well, mining is not for mining is a game of patience.
Right.
Let's just be honest.
Right. So. But yeah, I mean, we always have interesting things. It's just funny because it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
But the good thing about miners is we're persistent, we do not give up easily, and we're not afraid of challenges.
Right. Yeah, you have to be. Yep. There's always challenges.
I mean, just think about how often we have a lot of junior mining clients. How many of those clients have a mine? We've been in the business for 15 years.
A handful.
Yeah.
A lot of them just have ideas.
Yep.
They've got exploration projects. How many of them have an active mine? It's a small subset.
It's a small subset. But, we need all of those explorers, all of those junior miners, everyone to go out and exploring because that's what keeps the industry going.
Yeah, and talk about patience and sticking to it.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys get beat down all the time in the stock markets on great news with great projects.
Gold's at an all-time high and they still can't raise money.
They still can't raise any money.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, we were talking today about our Canadian clients have left the building.
Yeah.
I mean, they're struggling hard, and we've got a few that are still good and doing their work, but a lot of them are just having a really hard time.
Well, I hope things change, and when they do, we'll be there.
Yep. Because we're tenacious too. So, you had an idea earlier to leave the studio.
We're going to leave the studio.
And do a little yard tour of some of the mining artifacts we have outside.
Yes, because as people in mining, in the service side of mining, whatever you want to call it. We also have a passion for mining history and think the old equipment is super cool. So let's go outside and look at stuff.
Okay. See you outside.
Might leave the cat here.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll be joined by Pepper because we can't go outside without Pepper following us.
All right, let's do it.
So we'll trade out a blue for a Pepper and we'll see you outside right now. This is a rock drill and it runs on pneumatics. So prior to the invention of this bad boy, guys used to go in the mines and they would use a chisel and a hammer and they would drill the holes to blast. That's called single jacking. And then double jack is where one guy holds the chisel and the other guy swings the sledgehammer and they rotate and they drill the hole to blast. Then this guy came along. It runs off pneumatics. So you hook up the pneumatic hose here, you hook up the water hose right here, and then this thing could drill. And it's a big, heavy stoper, so it can drill up into stopes and into different angles. But this thing really revolutionized mining. Super key piece of equipment, very heavy. The guys who ran these things were super burly and they were really noisy. And before the invention of the ones that had the water hookups, they created a ton of dust and a lot of silicosis. But then once they invented the water hookups, they got a lot safer. The bits would cool better and that lasts a lot longer, but really neat piece of mining history. It's another favorite of mine. So this one's pretty self-explanatory. This is an ore bucket. So this would hang on a gravity-powered tram line where the full buckets would go down the mountain and it'd carry the empty buckets back up. It's all gravity fed. These were used all over the western United States, from Montana to California, Arizona, Utah, Wyoming, everywhere in between. This will hold about almost a ton, about a 1 ton bucket. And I have another one just up here that's a little smaller that I actually rode out of a mine once with our mine winch. I stood inside of it and rode it out. I've got a couple pictures of it. Pretty cool. All right, so last but not least on our little mine history tour for today, this is a CS Card Ironworks ore car, and it's in great working condition, still dumps and everything. This was made in Denver, Colorado, and made its way out here to Utah, where it was used up in the Little Cottonwood Canyons, and then found its way into a local collection. And when the collector passed away, I was able to acquire it and put it on display here at home, which has been great. Anyway, ore car. So similar to the ore bucket, it's for hauling ore, but this would be used to haul out of the mine. So they'd fill it up, take it out of the mine, and then it dumps. They'd take the handle off, pull it back, and it dumps. And then once again, I have another pneumatic drill up here that's just a smaller version of the previous one. So this will be used for narrower work, smaller development. So yeah, really neat. Couple of really cool pieces that I'm proud of. Explore you later. Okay, on 3.
What are we doing?
Well, actually, you count to 3 and pop up, and then we'll close it out. Okay. No, Crystal counts to 3 and then pops up.
1, 2, 3. All right. We'll explore you later.
Thanks for watching Mine Explorers, episode 20. We'll see you next week.